Hello guys, I'm Michael Chendia here at Christdev Tech YouTube channel, and I'm here to talk to you about a very interesting tool that uh, developers use for coding. You know, powerful technology that allows us to code much faster, and it is called Emmet, like so, right? And what it does is it helps us to generate code a lot faster. So coding, one of the things about coding that makes it a little bit difficult is the anticipation that you're going to write a lot of stuff, right? But Emmet is a nice technology that helps us to generate a lot of this stuff very easily. So let me just show you a demonstration, right? So let's just start with something like this. So section, right? Notice it already has this Emmet abbreviation stuff popping up already. So that already tells you that okay, it is being identified as something that can be used for Emmet, right? And then we have something like this. So let's have dot maybe logo, right? And then maybe plus and on ordered list, right? Maybe with an ID of navigation, right? And then with child list elements, 5 of them, right? And each of those list elements should have an anchor tag which says item, a number, right? And then see what happens. Isn't that cool? That's very nice. So you see here we have he has generated a section that begins here and ends here, and then he has generated a div with a class of logo. He has generated an unordered list with an ID of navigation, and 1 2 3 4 5 list elements with item 1 to 5, right? So it's numbered, and all of that was done with just this simple line of typing stuff, right? So the idea is with Emmet, if you understand the syntax, you can do a lot of work very fast, right? So see how fast that comes out, and we don't have to come and start typing item 1, item 2, item 3 and all of that kind of stuff, right? So let's talk about Emmet. What can you do with it, and what is Emmet actually? So Emmet is a short form of writing that can be translated into HTML, XML. Emmet abbreviations are optimized for but not limited to generating HTML and XML code and making writing tedious long code very easy. As you see here, we've created all of this within a very short period of time by just typing the right code, right? So let's get into it and see the syntax of Emmet, right? So what's the syntax of Emmet? In Emmet, we create elements just by typing the name of the element, right? So for example, you just type hill, right? If Emmet was active at this point in time, that becomes an element. For example, let's start with maybe a class of logo, or yeah, something like we did up there, right? If you now take plus and type hue, automatically it creates a new tag with hue, right? So you can create elements in Emmet just by typing anything. So you can create any element that you want to create very easy, right? And then you can nest. So you can put one thing inside another thing, and you can you deal with positioning, right? So you saw above here when we did the ID starting with hash, of course, of section, right? And then we give this forward facing sharp HTML thing that denotes that one is a child of the other, or one is inside another one. right? And then we can now have something like maybe UL, and then inside the UL we have LIs, maybe 5 of them as we saw, right? So all of this now is inside this and inside this, right? So I want to just show you like what it is and what it generates, right? So this gives us this, and so you see that this produces this the next for this one to enter, and then this produces the next for these 5 elements enter here as well, right? So that is nesting with Emmet. You can put items inside other items using this sign, right, or that symbol. So that's nesting. You can have siblings. So siblings are, for example, when you are writing 2 elements and they are at the same level in terms of hierarchy. So for example, these 2 list elements are siblings, right? And let's say we have a situation like maybe a div, right? And then inside that div we have an h2 and we have a paragraph, right? So you have h2 plus p, right? And you type enter, so you see that we have h2 and we have p, and both of them are like children of the div, right? So because of the plus, we get to have some sort of like sibling relationship, so they are like at the same level of the child, right? And then the next thing that we can look at is the climbing up sign. So for example, you have something like div, right? And then you put the sign that says, okay, everything that's coming after this is a child of the div, right? And you have h2 and you have maybe the paragraph, and then you suddenly remember you had to write something after the div, right? You now put this sign and you write, maybe you want to make an ordered list that has its own child of say 3 list elements. So now see what happens. We have the div and we have the ordered list, and this ordered list, though it was written after the div, it climbs out to the next level, right? So let's undo that. You see what we have and you see what we get. So that's very nice, right? And the next thing that you want to see, we want to look at the multiplication sign. I've used it quite a couple of number of times already. See here, times 5 produces 5 list elements, right? Times 3 produces 3 list elements in this case, right? And you can apply that to many other things, not just list elements. So for example, if say you have h3 elements, you want 3 h3 elements, right? And you want them to have no, let's not go there yet. Let's just say you want 3 h3 elements, and you just type that. So you see automatically 3 h3 elements come out, and you can like use them, right? And it's quite interesting. Now if you don't want to use this this symbol that helps the next tag to climb up the hierarchy, you can simply learn to group your stuff, right? So like in this case, if you want to produce this same result without using that, let me just put that there so that we know where this comes from. If we want to achieve this same result without using this, then we will have to group them, right? So for example, instead of writing that, we're going to write it something like this, right? But instead of putting this here, we put a plus, and then we group these guys in a bracket like that. Group these guys. Let me put 3 here. Oops. So let's say we have a section, right? And then we now put open bracket like that, then we give, maybe we put something like an anchor tag there, see what comes out. So this section now has this and this and then this, right? So I was just trying to put that anchor tag so that we can replicate what we have here, like we have this H and this P and these things inside this and inside that. I also added the section just so that it will recognize that okay, it's an Emmet code, right? Because you cannot just start an Emmet code with the bracket open. That is supposed to be like something that comes inside, and you've seen how we can use it, right? And also there's something else that I've been using, which is the class and the IDs. You can add classes and IDs simply by using the CSS identifiers. So hash, maybe hash logo, create a div with an ID of logo, right? And dot logo create a div with a class of logo, right? And so practically, if you don't want it to be a div, you want it to be a P that has a class of logo, right? You can do it that way. But if you just put just the dot logo, what you get is a div with that class. So by default it creates a div, right? And the next thing we're going to look at is custom attributes, right? So custom attributes are like say we want to have these attributes here, because this dot logo produces a paragraph with a class of logo, right? And then dot logo just produces a div with a class of logo, right? So what if we want to create say an what if we want to create an anchor tag, right, with say the href attribute? How do we do that, right? So you write that, and as that pops up, you now put your square bracket, right? So you put your square bracket, and you put that okay, square bracket, and then you type what you want to put in it. So href, for example, you can make that equal to so https, right, christdev.com, right? And you can now say okay, give maybe what text do you want to be in the href, right? So you want maybe Christdev Incorporated. Okay, let's just have that. Oops, that became that became a tag. Yeah, as we originally said, you can just want it to text, right? Yeah. Take that. Okay. Okay. So now you see the text comes out inside, right? So if you want to put a text inside an element, you have just seen how to do it. You can use the curly bracket and you type the text inside after you have written the element tag on this side. So for example, if you want to put say click here, for example, right? So if you want to put click here, unless you write something after it, right? So for example, like in the case where we have the number, it generates like click 1, and if you had multiplied that, say, by 3 or 4, it would give you several items, right? So click 1, click 3, and all of that kind of stuff. And that brings me now to the aspect, okay, I have not yet mentioned item numbering, right? So item numbering is like when you have multiple items and you want to like have it automatically like numbered out without you typing item 1, item 2, item 3, none of that kind of stuff. That's useful for when maybe you're writing you're writing a list of items and you want to just say, okay, heading 1, heading 2, those kind of. So let's say we have h3, right, times 5, we want 5 h3s, and we want each of them to have something like heading and then the number, right? To see what happens, you now have heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, heading 5, and it just follows through in that way. That's a pretty nice way in which you can use to work, right? And so these dollar signs, you can use them in any number. So for example, if you put $2 gives heading 01, heading 02, heading 03 in that way. So you can, like, if you had to, like, say if this was by, say, 15, right, and you wrote that, guess what happens? You have now 01, 02, 03, 04, 05, right up to 15. So maybe if you're dealing with some kind of calendar situation, that can come in pretty handy, right? And you can change the numbering base and the direction as well. So for example, if you have if you want to like number in the reverse direction, say you want to start from number 5 and you're going to number 1 instead. So for example, you want, say, you want 5 headings in this case, and you want them to like be numbered in the reverse, right? So you have h3, right, and then you have that, the brackets, of course, right, the curly brackets, and then maybe you have written heading, and before you put, or you adding the number, right, and then now maybe you put now the at negative sign, and then we want maybe 5 of that, right? So we want 5 headings. Now you see it goes from heading 5 to heading 1, right? So you can use that. You can use that to use whatever it is you want to see, quite useful. And there are so many things you can do with Emmet. There are so many things. So this brings us to the end of the video. Hopefully you like it, and if you do, drop a comment, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll be doing a second part if it's requested for. See you next time, guys. Bye bye.